Thanks, Sally. Now, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Ray Fleming. Ray is founder of Stratentia, an expert who sits right at the intersection of AI, business and innovation. Ray spent over 30 years in technology leadership roles at Microsoft, Google Cloud and Innovate GPT, helping organisations all around the world understand and apply AI. He's also a professional speaker, a podcast host, and fun fact, no pressure on you now, Ray, but he's also a comedy improv performer. So you're in for a very engaging session. Please join me in welcoming Ray Fleming to the stage.
Wow. I was wearing the same shirt and the same jacket, and I'm going to try and remember to wear the same smile for the next 10 minutes. The comedy improv means when the projector dies and the PowerPoint disappears, I'll be the only person that's comfortable, I hope. It's amazing, isn't it? It is less than 3 years since generative AI first appeared in the format of ChatGPT. And think how much has changed in that time. Like the fact that we're all here talking about it, the fact that 800 million people a week around the world are using it, 1 in 10 of the world's population are using just ChatGPT, just one of the AI systems. It's an incredible pace of change. Remember, November 2022, when it could start to write. And then very quickly it learned to code, and it could generate pictures, and then videos. And then it started to reason, which I think of as thinking, because when I see it reasoning, it looks like it's thinking. And then it started to do deep research. And all of those times, every time a new thing appeared, I imagined that certain careers were changed. Certain things that used to take a long time could now be done in a short time. And then in the last couple of months, this is just from ChatGPT, just one product. We then saw Operator. And the first time I used Operator, and it spun up a little web browser, and it started to operate the web for me. And yes, because I've worked in education, and with the education system, I tested the scenario of could it do the course and pass the tests. And it just did all of those things automatically. So much change has happened in such a short period. And do you know what the really interesting thing is? The really interesting thing I find about this now is often when you're talking about can you do something, it is quicker to try it and find out than it is to have the conversation about whether something is possible or not. Let's just give it a go. Let's just try and find out. And part of that is because we've moved between 2 ages. The old world of algorithmic AI, which was we knew it was doing things. We knew it was recommending the Netflix movie or the Facebook feed, but we didn't know how. That was the domain of geeks or nerds or whatever is the polite way to describe those people. Specialists that went and did things. And then what changed in November 2022 was that we moved to an age of human AI. And I don't mean human in the sense that we should think about AI as human, but I mean human in the sense of the skills that we need to interact with it. Because you just have a conversation. I don't know about you, I say please when I'm talking to AI. There's 2 reasons. The first batches of AI actually give you better answers. The answer quality was better if you were polite to it, and it would respond in a similar kind of way. The second is, when they are our robot overlords, they'll remember Ray's the one that said please and thank you. But it's not just about the human skills and the conversational nature. It's also about the attributes. We're going from an age where IQ was one of the most important things in technology to an age now that I think is great for us. It's an age where IQ and EQ are really important. If you've got EQ, that's how you get the most out of it. Empathy and understanding somebody else's perspective, understanding your customers, understanding business problems. Having a combination of IQ and EQ is just a great thing to have. Now, when we think about how AI is being used, I think about it in these 3 areas. The first is personal productivity. That's the bit we all have. Run it up on my phone to write an email, answer a difficult question, get it to do some process for me. Oh, this form, what do I fill into that box? The second is process productivity. That's teams looking at a task that they're trying to do and making that process smarter. And the third is paradigm productivity. That's the Uber to the taxi industry. That's the Netflix to the Blockbuster. That is changing the way that your pattern of delivery of a business is and finding a completely new way to do it. We're mostly at level 1. There are some that are level 2, and there's very few that are level 3. Because we're still early days. We're still less than 3 years in. As organizations, we don't know how it is going to transform the way that our businesses might operate. My fear is that we're not experimenting enough. We're not taking the lessons we've had from fast-moving industries like technology and been able to take those models and say, okay, how do we live in a world where tomorrow is uncertain? I mean, this morning was fantastic. It's the first time I've not had to update any slides because something was announced overnight. But how do you cope with that in an organization that is used to taking things in a measured way? What is the cultural change that has to happen in order for us to be able to move our organizations from simple personal productivity through to process and paradigm? And let me just tell you a little bit about that personal productivity thing. I think everybody's doing it, aren't they? They're all using AI to do something. You know, it might be answer a question, or it might be hack some internal process. The interesting thing is people aren't talking about it. And initially, it was because, will people think I'm lazy? Am I allowed to do it? But when they found themselves saving an hour a day, another reason came to not do it, which is the last person I would tell if I saved an hour a day is my boss. Because they'd just give me another hours of work. So for us to be able to get to the later stages, we've got to change the culture, we've got to change the way that we share, and people have to have psychological safety about the future. Here's a question I often ask people. If you could give every employee in your business an intern with 150 IQ, what would you do? And what I'm looking for is their eyes to go in two directions. One is, oh, that's great, I can replace people. The other, the direction that I think we should be looking at is, what is the growth opportunity? What can we now do? The important but not urgent that we never get to, because we now make a breathing space for our businesses, for our teams, to be able to change things. So Sally talked about sharing some of the stories and some of the lessons. Here's some of the lessons. One of the lessons is start with the monkey. You're asked to build a model of a monkey on a podium that can recite the works of Shakespeare. Where do most teams start? Oh, I know how to build a podium, I'll start with that. And then 6 months down the line, they discover they can't get the talking monkey. Now with AI, start with the monkey. Start with the most difficult bit. Because you'll know in a week, or a day, or potentially even in an hour, if that bit is going to be possible. The integration with your enterprise data systems, that's going to take you 6 months, at least. But knowing whether the base scenario works is really good. It's a technique I learned at Google. Start with the monkey, the most difficult bit of the project. The other thing is, this goes back 2,000 years to the parable from India of the blind man and the elephant. If you lead a blind man to an elephant, the bit that he touches on the elephant will influence what he thinks. If he's touching the side, he'll say it's a wall. If he's touching the trunk, he'll say it's a snake or a rope. If he's touching the back, he'll say something else. And that's like AI. Everybody has a different impression of what it is and what it can do. We're all seeing just one small part of it. So think about that when you bring your teams together. Who are the different people you need to bring together with the different perspectives in order to be able to get things done? There's one phrase that I always encourage you to add. When you think about what AI can and can't do, if you ever say it can't do something, don't forget to put the word yet on the end of the sentence. And the yet might be tomorrow, or it might be next week, or it might be next year. And that might mean you don't tackle some projects yet. I've also learned, because the technology is moving very fast, I'd add for now onto the end of it can do something. It can do this for now, but it might change tomorrow. It's a constantly changing thing we have difficulty with. Now, we're quite risk-averse in our organizations, and the governance and leadership of our organizations is often encouraged to be risk-averse. I think the challenge is, if you don't do anything, are you creating risk? This is a Model T Ford. They were painted in black. They were painted in black because black was the fastest drying paint. It only took 37 days to paint a Model T Ford. Charles Kettering at General Motors worked out how to do it in an hour. But they wouldn't change their techniques. That isn't the way we do things. So he ended up demonstrating, I guess start with the monkey, he ended up demonstrating that you could repaint a car in an hour by taking the production manager's car and repainting it while he was at lunch. Then turned out the guy who painted the primer wasn't willing to change, so he sent him away on a 6-week holiday, and while he was away, changed the whole production process. We're going to have to learn some of those techniques. We're going to have to learn how we take some experiments and move those experiments from experiments into production rapidly, because if we don't, our competitors might. It's as much about culture as it is about technology. It's also about trust. Learning where you can trust and where you can't. What safeguards do you need in place? Who are your users in your organization? Who are your explorers? What tools do you give the explorers? Maybe you give them a different set to the users. Who are the builders? Who are the people that are going to go and build your new paradigm? And what do you give to them? Your organization isn't made up of one type of person. Working out how you get the champions, how you get the innovators, and how you support them. And here's my last thought for you. Sometimes change is hard, sometimes change appears risky, sometimes it seems easier to not do anything than to do something. Does anybody know when this is? This is Dagen Har in Sweden. Sweden drove on the wrong side of the road. The whole of Europe drove on the right, and Sweden drove on the left. So when you left Sweden, you had to switch your car to the other side of the road. The most obvious thing for Sweden to do would be to do nothing, because if you were to make a huge change like that, surely that's got loads of risk in it. The interesting thing is, Sweden made a switch on one Sunday morning. They took everything off the road, turned all the roadsides around, and the next day, everybody drove on the right. Massive risk, massive change. For 6 months, the accident rate on the Swedish roads went down. The fatalities went down. The injuries went down. The message out of that is that if you're facing a risky decision, sometimes the riskier move is to stick with the status quo, because it seems like maybe there's less risk in not making a decision than in making a decision. This isn't just about technology, this is about culture and about innovation. I would urge you all to become story collectors. Find the stories in your industry of people that are doing interesting things. Work out, does that apply to me? Can I use that? Can I learn from the people around me? Thank you very much.